Guess I should press the record button, right?
Jimmy. All
Okay.
right, brother.
Are we ready?
I'm ready. How
All
are
right.
you?
I think I'm ready. We'll see.
Okay.
Hello, and welcome to Overlanders Then and Now. I'm Jim King, here with the guy who still can't get enough of traveling, Tom Bingle. So, where are you off to now, Bings?
Oh, Jimmy, just over to this town in France called Annecy. And
Let's see.
there it was the home of St. Francis de Sales, and that's the high school. The name of the high school I went to in Toledo, Ohio, St.
Yeah.
Francis de Sales High School. And Jim, it's just kind of a journey to right where he lived and everything, about 25 people. So it's exciting, Jimmy.
Wow.
Leaving tomorrow.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Oh wow. Tomorrow. Okay. Well, I'm glad we were able to record this before you go. Because as has often happened when we travel together, your plans might change, and who knows where you'll end up or when you'll be back, right?
Well, Jimmy, true, true. But this time, NC is the one and only destination, Doc.
Oh,
All right.
excellent, excellent, because we got a lot of posts to complete yet. So, and by the way, speaking of Annecy, there's a connection here. In our last video, we were in Venice. Now,
Yeah.
isn't Annecy known
Oh,
as the
yeah.
Venice of the Alps? Lots of canals, stone bridges.
Jimmy, you're absolutely correct. And another spectacular medieval town.
Mm, yes.
Jimmy, and speaking of changes to the itinerary, I think that happened to us, Doc, in Italy, right,
Yeah.
Jimmy?
Yep, absolutely. We had planned to go from Venice to
Yeah.
Rome,
Yes.
probably to offer some much needed advice to Pope Paul VI. But then we heard about cheap ferry rides to Greece.
Yeah. Yeah, Jimmy, right. And Greece was not, on the original itinerary. It was a little bit
No,
over too far. So we changed our plans and to swing back, Jimmy, through Rome afterward, not
right.
to miss Rome, then to continue on to the other two countries that we wanted to see, France and Spain. By then, though, Doc, our Eurail passes would have expired, and that'd be the end of our travels, or so we thought.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, we did hop on a train, made our way from Venice, way up in northern
Yeah,
Italy, all
yes.
the way down to the boot, the very southern
Hmm.
Italy, where we would catch a ferry to Greece from the Italian port city of Brindisi.
Yes.
But if I recall correctly, it was a very long train ride, right?
Oh, Doc, you're right. About
Yeah,
10 hours, and it was
it was.
bumpy, Jimmy, and crowded. Jimmy, I remember getting on, and my heart was lifted because there wasn't anybody in that compartment. But darn it, Jimmy, that was impossible when several others joined us.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and that's what made it so long was, it's a very crowded compartment.
yeah.
According to my journal, they included a young Italian man and woman. They weren't traveling together, and a man from Tehran, and they all spoke
Yeah.
English.
Ooh,
The
yeah.
woman and the Iranian were fluent, not so much the Italian gentleman, but the Tehranian,
Yeah.
is that
Hmm.
right? He had studied
Yeah.
at NYU, New York University.
Yeah, interesting, Jimmy. And then there
Yeah.
was another gentleman, Max, who was a student from the University of Padua from Bari, another
Yeah.
town. He was heading home. And his English, Jimmy, it's amazing, was also
I don't
excellent.
remember
But
him.
Jimmy, meeting someone from Tehran was certainly a new experience that kind of exotic.
Yeah.
Tehran seemed like a million miles away. Little did we know that we would eventually visit Tehran.
Yeah, and we would have to get out quickly since the revolution had taken place not long before we got there. But we'll save that for another
Oh, yeah.
post. Which it also highlighted our youthful stupidity. But anyway, we'll let's get back to Brindisi. What are your thoughts now, looking back to late November, 1977?
Jimmy, down so different from Venice, Doc,
Yes.
night and
Yep.
day. As the North, had the industry, had the finance, it was well off, it seemed, and then down south, Jimmy, oh, this was dusty and rocky soil and hard to eke out a living, and the majority of the people were involved in agriculture. I may be recalling this incorrectly, but it just seemed, Jimmy, like Brindisi, a little rundown town.
Okay.
Dusty, not much to do other than catch the ferry out of town, Jim. Maybe I'm remembering it too harshly, but that's how it felt to me. Now, what about you, Doc?
No, I get it. I mean, yeah, I don't think it's too harsh because back then, Brindisi was it seemed to me like a frontier
Yeah, oh,
outpost.
good point.
As you
Hmm.
say, there was nothing to do there and it was dusty, I remember. But in fairness, I did a little research before we got on here to see if it had changed much. And I found that it didn't change much. Changed completely. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
The pictures that I
Wow.
saw online, it just looks like it looks great. So I guess a lot can happen in a half century, right?
Jim, you're
But you know
right.
that because you've been there since, right,
Yeah,
Tim?
Jimmy, my wife and I were there a couple years ago, and I have to admit, Jimmy, this area, Puglia, Puglia, is hot. I think everybody that has been over to Italy, they've been up to Venice, Rome and Florence, the Amalfi Coast, and Sicily and all that. But now this is a kind of an area that's being discovered, Jimmy.
Wow.
How about it? So, Jimmy, what do you remember most of about Brindisi? What do you?
Well, Brindisi, well, as our regular followers know, this blog really isn't about must-see sites or must-eat at restaurants. It's really about the
Yeah,
experience of travel, especially
yeah,
the
the
people you
experience.
meet along the way.
Yeah.
So for me, I remember that uncomfortable train ride more vividly than Brindisi itself.
Oh,
For example, the Iranian and the Italian woman, they were talking nonstop, mainly about architecture, which was kind of
yes, that's
interesting,
right.
but
Yeah,
it kept
yeah.
going on and on. And whenever the Iranian mentioned a U.S. city, the Italian gentleman, he didn't speak much English. He would always pipe up and say, "I've been there. I've been there." Every single time. It was
Yeah,
hilarious, and I think it
yeah.
was driving the Iranian nuts. Yeah.
Jimmy, that's classic travel bragging or backpacking bragging in action, Doc.
Yeah. And he
Yeah.
was also a smoker. Oh,
Ooh,
it just drove me
ooh,
crazy. At one point,
yeah,
I wrote in my
yes.
journal that if he lights up again, I'm going to jump out the window. Oh,
Jimmy, yes, Jimmy, well, it was just so closed in.
yeah,
It was cramped in
yeah,
that compartment.
very close. Thank God at one point someone opened a window and
Yeah.
fresh air poured in, which was not only a relief, but beyond that, you could smell salt water.
Yep.
And then it
Interesting.
dawned on
Yeah,
me, hey, we're
Jimmy.
traveling along the Adriatic, and
Wow.
the
Yeah.
Adriatic. Now that's another one of those geographic names
Yes.
you never
Yes.
expect to actually see. And that helped take my mind off my need for clean clothes and a shower. And that reminds me, just last night, Joanne, my wife, asked me, how we traveled with so few clothes and how we wash them, and I laughed. She was
Oh,
assuming that we did wash them.
oh, but Jimmy, we washed our shirts, our socks, our underwear in the sinks, Jimmy.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever washed my blue jeans, though, Jimmy.
Okay. Well, we've shared probably more than our audience needs to know, but
Okay.
I think for the most part, we kept ourselves presentable. So, but let's talk about that place we stayed in when we got to Brindisi.
Oh, Doc, you hit it. You kind of arranged this. It was an apartment for
Yeah.
the night, and sharing it, Jimmy. I had written like one Spaniard and two Irish people, and I had three South Americans, Jimmy, on that
Well, that's funny because,
with us.
in my journal, I wrote three Americans, including us, a British couple, a Canadian, and a Spaniard. So
Jiminy.
I don't know who's right here, but
Yeah.
the apartment was definitely international in scope
Yes.
and
Yes.
surprisingly cheap. We only paid 2,500 lire for the night.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember that.
And speaking of nights, it was a very special night, right?
Oh yeah, Jimmy. Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And here, Doc, we were going to be sharing it with, international people. I was so pumped up, Doc. I just couldn't believe it. I was able to kind of, explain about, introduce them to the pilgrims, to the Native Americans and all the giving and the sharing. It was just wonderful. And I remember, Jimmy, our Thanksgiving dinner was only bread and wine.
Yeah, that's
Yet
it. That's
again, it
all.
was so electric. It was so electric in that. And Jimmy, unfortunately, I had a feeling about as I saw everybody sitting around the room there before I went in. Ooh, I had a premonition that Tom Bingo may get a little out of hand, may be overserved, which I was.
I think that was self-serve, but anyway, you know,
Yeah, Jimmy.
and
Oh
I'm
yeah.
sure our viewers can just imagine you explaining Thanksgiving to some
Yeah,
foreigners.
it's
It
great.
was very entertaining, and the wine.
Yeah.
We did have plenty of wine and
Yeah.
little bread, and the wine
Oh,
was very tasty, but it did
yeah,
have some
Jim.
disastrous consequences for you,
Yeah.
right? I'm not talking a
Jimmy.
hangover either.
Yeah, Jimmy, here we go. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I was going to be, a great host. Let's open up another bottle. No, wine opener at all. But sure enough, Jimmy, I pulled out my Swiss Army knife, little one, and started to cut up. And Jimmy King, I can still see it today. Jimmy, I just punctured my area, right between my thumb and my index finger. And Jim, it was a deep, deep cut, bleeding. And Jimmy, I look at it today, and I can still see that scar underneath my skin. Jimmy,
Yeah, I
unbelievable.
remember Binks. I remember we were racing around the apartment trying to find towels, dish towels, whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That you should have gotten stitches, but I don't think any of us were in any shape to get you to the hospital. And that's not the
Oh,
only
gee.
thing that happened that night,
No,
right?
Jimmy, the other thing, it was unbelievable, Jimmy, because then here's Tom Bigelow putting away his contacts. Well,
Yeah.
the final contact I was putting in, Jimmy, I twisted it and I just tore it apart as I was putting it into the thing. So, Jimmy, now after losing, my glasses in Venice in such a dramatic way, I also I was left with one contact, Jimmy, and that was it.
Well,
Oh, after this evening, boy.
even with one hand and one eye, you held your
Yeah.
own with the group. I think we
Well, thanks,
stayed
Jimmy.
up all night talking and laughing. It was a very memorable Thanksgiving.
Oh, Jimmy, yeah. But Jimmy, there's always a price to pay. The next day, I was kind of disgusted with myself for injuring my hand, breaking my contact, not to mention getting drunk. Jimmy, this led to, again, a lot of introspection. And I do want to admit, for the backpacker, there's a lot of time wherever you are. You write down a lot of things and you're thinking about life. And anyhow, but I was right about how I was conducting myself, Jimmy, and how I wanted to conduct myself in the future, Doc.
Uh, I think you're being a little hard on yourself, but hangovers lead to a lot of resolutions. So, did you make any?
Yeah. Jimmy, are you ready for this one? I always got to strive to be a stable person. I got to write those postcards to people that I really care about, and I walk away from this terrible night, and I promise myself, let's not beat myself up for it. Look at all there are some good qualities in me, Jimmy. I'm respectful, trusting, Protestant work ethic. I'm reserved, non-materialistic.
I'm still digesting your resolution to become a stable person. Has that
Jimmy,
worked out
yes.
for you?
Uh,
Oh, anyway, that's some just kidding, of course. That's some heavy duty introspection. Yeah, I think my only resolution, by way of contrast, was to avoid cheap wine in the future, or at least buy enough bread to soak it all up.
Oh,
But
uh,
back to Thanksgiving. Did it
yeah,
make you a little
yeah.
homesick being away from home
Oh,
on
Jimmy, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. The thing that I always remember, we had established my four older brothers on Thanksgiving morning would play the Turkey Bowl.
oh yeah,
Kind of a football game without pads or anything. And that's, one that I missed. And Jimmy, just as an aside, it's still going on in Toledo, Ohio. Every
really?
Thanksgiving morning, the third generation now continues the Turkey Bowl. Doc, what about you? What about you?
Well, actually, it wasn't the first time that I had not been home for Thanksgiving. Our senior year, when we were in college, we shared with three other guys a off-campus house, and Jay, one of our roommates, made that night some spicy Italian dish of some sort. It wasn't exactly a
Oh,
traditional
good.
Thanksgiving meal, but it was very good.
Oh yeah, Jay's a good cook.
Yeah. And I think what was on my mind was that it was more about Christmas. It was coming up, and I
Yeah,
was wondering if
interesting.
I'd be home for that or still traveling.
Wow, good point. Good point, Jim. I think it was weighing on my mind as well. That's fascinating, Doc. Yeah. But Jimmy, let's not reveal to our viewers kind of what happened. There's
Yeah.
still more traveling tonight, Jimmy. As next on the agenda, Doc, was the reason why we were in Brindisi for our trip across the Adriatic that you had mentioned, that
Yeah.
magic Adriatic.
Right. The Adriatic to Greece.
Yes.
Great. It was really, really something. So, well, we'll talk about that next time. So,
All
everyone
right.
watching this, thank you very much. And until next time, arrivederci.
Arrivederci, everyone.
This is hopeless.